Alright everyone, I'm sorry it's been a minute since my last video. I wasn't interested in seeing Candyman. But for now we have the first movie in the MCU's Phase 4 that actually takes place in Phase 4. So let's talk about that. Man, it seems like I'm only talking about Marvel stuff these days. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So Shang-Chi is the 25th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the second movie in its Phase 4, and it introduces a brand new superhero to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That would be Shang-Chi, played by Simu Liu. Shang-Chi was raised by his father, Wenwu, played by Tony Leung. Wenwu is the leader of the Ten Rings, which is a terrorist organization. You may know them from previous installments of the MCU, and he eventually will want his son, Shang-Chi, to join him at his side. But for now, Shang-Chi is living a good life in San Francisco with his friend Katie, played by Awkwafina, and so in this movie he's dragged back to his family and he has to face his destiny. And now we have our movie, which I thought was pretty cool. First off, the character Shang-Chi. I liked him a lot, cause yeah, he is very relatable. Whenever you have a character who has like a destiny that he's reluctant to get into, you know, he's like, I don't know if I want to do this. I at least find that relatable. Destiny can be a scary thing sometimes, and this movie touches on that. Where I don't relate to him is in the fact that he's a straight up badass when it comes to throwing down. Yeah, guy knows how to fight, although he does get his ass kicked a few times in this movie. But that is good, you know? He's not completely invincible. He has heart. He's a human being. He doesn't have like superpowers or anything, you know? He's kind of like Black Widow. He doesn't have super strength. He's just really good at fighting. And that's cool. He's like Daredevil if he had his sight. Then we have Awkwafina as his friend, Katie Chen. And honestly speaking, after watching the trailers, I was kind of afraid of what her character would be in this film. And after watching the film, my fears were justified. She's just a comic relief, but that's really all she's here to be. I really mean that. After I walked out of the theater, I was like, what did she contribute to the plot? And the answer is not much. She's there to be the friend, but like when Shang-Chi's like, I have to go confront my destiny, she's like, I'm going with you. And I was like, why? You're gonna get killed. But she really doesn't contribute much to the story at all. She does like one thing towards the end, but ultimately I feel like that thing she does could have been done differently and she didn't have to be in the movie at all. I hate to say it, but that's how I feel. However, this movie does have a pretty good villain. Wenwu, played by Tony Leung. Tony Leung's a really good actor. And Wenwu being Shang-Chi's father, that does make for a really good hero-villain, father-son dynamic. You know, like a Luke and Darth Vader sort of thing. And I felt it really worked in this movie. There were some scenes with Wenwu I was like, wow, this is actually really hitting me. They do make him kind of a sympathetic villain, which I didn't see coming. I mean, the guy is a leader of a terrorist organization for crying out loud. But above all else, they make him a family man. That's good. One more character I want to touch on is Michelle Yeoh, because Michelle Yeoh is a straight up badass. Ever since I watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I'm like, yeah, Michelle Yeoh is awesome. She's not in this movie as much as I wanted her to be, but that doesn't change the fact that when she was on screen, I'm sure she didn't even know she was being filmed. I'm sure the filmmakers were like, all right, Michelle Yeoh, just be your badass self, and we'll just film you and somehow splice it into the movie. Yeah, there you go, perfect, because she's a badass in this movie. Can I talk about the action scenes in this movie? Holy shit. This movie is the introduction of, you know, classic kung fu martial arts into the MCU, and it really does show. The martial arts hand-to-hand or hand-to-knife combat scenes are really exciting. I read that the choreographer of these fighting scenes is the choreographer of like all those classic Jackie Chan movies, and you can totally tell when people are fighting one-on-one, it's like nail-biting stuff. The fights are really fast-paced. The cinematography is really cool. It did feel a little shaky a couple times, but only a couple times. But I mean, yeah, that action scene on the bus was really exciting. There's a clip of it on YouTube. Check it out. It's really cool. So yeah, the action in this movie is a big plus, but of course it is. You know, that's what was marketed in this movie. That's why you go to see it, for the big action scenes. Hello, it's a Marvel movie. But then the fact that it is a Marvel movie does lead me to my biggest flaw in this movie. Yeah, I know, it does have a flaw, at least to me, and that would be the humor. Like most other recent Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, this one does have a lot of humor, and I gotta say, most of it did not land with me. I laughed at like 10% of the humor in this movie. And when I did laugh, I never laughed for very long. I never belly laughed. I was like, haha, that's funny, okay. Moving on. But I mean, the jokes in this movie, they were easy jokes. I saw them coming from a mile away most of the time. I was like, let me guess, they're gonna do this joke? Yeah, alright, they did it. Again, I gotta mention Awkwafina here because her character was the comic relief. And I felt like that was all she was in the movie to be. She was just there to be the comic relief and nothing else. Because again, she didn't provide anything else to the plot. That's why I said I didn't feel like she had to be in the movie at all. Now, the audience around me was laughing at most of the humor. It's true. So maybe I'm just an asshole. I'm not gonna rule that possibility out. But hey, that's why people are different. Opinions are different. Maybe you love the humor in this movie. That's great. I just didn't. What I did love in this movie though, of course, the culture and the world of this whole thing. As I've said in previous videos, Asian culture is aesthetically one of my favorite cultures in the world because of just how beautiful it is. And seeing it on the big screen in IMAX, I'm like, holy shit, look at all this cool stuff. There were some points near the end where I'm like, okay, that's a bit too CG fake looking for me, kind of like the end fight in Black Panther, but that didn't change the fact that I was still fascinated with the world, because it was really cool, you know, magic and stuff. No spoilers here, but you know. Another bummer I have about this movie though is that it is a bit cliche. Honestly, everything in this movie I have seen before in other movies. Nothing in this movie really surprised me. Like, I've seen martial arts before, I've seen Asian culture before, I've seen dragons before, you know, and I've seen this plot before. That is kind of a bummer, is that, you know, everything in this movie I have seen before. So it does lose a couple of points for not being original with me, but it was still fun to watch though, especially towards the end. You know, the end when all the big shit's going down, it gets really epic, and I was like, oh yeah, now it's a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie? This is awesome! I'll talk about it in my spoiler talk. It's gonna be epic, because the ending of this movie is pretty damn epic. As for the score done by Joel P. West, who I've never heard of before, it was pretty cool. You know, of course it's gonna use Asian influences, and it's gonna remind me of the scores of Kubo and the Two Strings and Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it does, and that's awesome. I got the soundtrack because it's just really cool. So in the end, Shang-Chi, I had fun with it. The action scenes are the best thing about this movie. They're awesome. They're super well choreographed, the martial arts scenes. The big action at the end is really exciting. The characters are great for the most part. Very well written. I love the villain. The father-son dynamic is really good. However, most of the humor did not land with me, and the movie overall is a bit cliche. But I did still have a pretty good time. For Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I will say, go see this movie while it's in theaters. And of course, this movie does have a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. Stick around for both because they're both great. So, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? And what is your favorite martial arts movie of all time? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.